vegetable oils. Malaysian palm oil is rising sharply, while Chicago soy oil and European rapeseed are also making substantial gains. However, waning Chinese demand, fears of a surplus, and a stronger U.S. dollar are pulling back crude oil prices. The Canadian Grain Commission reported 264,500 tons of canola were exported during the weekend of November 10th, up from 204,100 tons the previous week. So far this marketing year, 3.365 million tons were exported, compared to 1.65 million last year. The Canadian dollar is down 0.2 of a U.S. cent compared to Thursday's close. The January canola contract is up $7.50 per ton at $635.10. In the U.S., corn, soybeans, and wheat are all higher. The U.S. Department of Agriculture reported 1.315 million tons of U.S. corn were sold for export during the weekend of November 7th, near the lower end of trade expectations, down 53% from the previous week and down 52% from the 4-week average. The U.S. Energy Information Administration said 1.113 million barrels of ethanol were produced per day on average during the weekend of November 8th, an all-time record and up 8,000 barrels per day from the previous week. However, ethanol stocks were only up 19,000 barrels at 22.039 million. The December corn contract is up 1 U.S. cent per bushel at $4.20. 1.555 million tons of U.S. soybeans were sold for export, mostly to China, during the weekend of November 7th, down 24% from the previous week and the 4-week average. In addition, 302,400 tons of soy meal and 16,500 tons of soy oil were also sold for export. The USDA also reported a private export sale of 176,000 tons of soybeans to unknown destinations this morning. Conab raised its Brazilian soybean production estimate by 90,000 tons at 166.14 million. The January soybean contract is up 10 U.S. cents per bushel at $9.97. 380,100 tons of U.S. wheat were sold for export during the weekend of November 7th, up 1% from the previous week. The CGC reported 521,100 tons of Canadian wheat were exported during the weekend of November 10th, compared to 471,100 tons 1 week earlier. So far this marketing year, 5.482 million tons were shipped, while 5.513 million were shipped 1 year ago. France's Ag Ministry said seeding for its winter wheat crop was 78% complete, compared to the 5-year average of 83%. The December Chicago wheat contract is up 5 U.S. cents per bushel at $5.35. The December Kansas City hard red wheat contract is up 4 U.S. cents per bushel at $5.37. The December Minneapolis spring wheat contract is up 4 U.S. cents per bushel at $5.71. That's a look at the ICE futures in U.S. markets for Friday, November 15th. In Winnipeg for MarketsFarm.com, I'm Adam Pilasciati.
35 years ago, Butler Farm Equipment had a vision. That vision included making sure you can rely on us when you need us, to treat everyone as you want to be treated, to always be approachable and friendly, and of course, to get the job done right. That vision is one we still have today. Butler Farm Equipment, celebrating 35 years of delivering great service in the Peace region. To learn more, visit us online at butlerfarmequipment.ca.
The opinions expressed on this show do not represent those of the station. If you've missed any of the shows, you can follow the podcast at Energeticcity.ca. Welcome to This Week in the Peace, a show dedicated to the people, events, and news of BC's Peace region. Here's your hosts, Dub Craig and Steve Berard.
Dub is unfortunately under the weather today, so it's just me. We talked a bit last week, but November, or Movember if you're growing out your facial hair for it like I am, is an important time for a lot of men across Canada to raise awareness for men's health issues like mental health and suicide prevention, testicular cancer, and prostate cancer. On Energetic City, we've been running a series of articles this month about a Fort St. John man's experience with prostate cancer, and today we're speaking with that man, Evan Saugstad, to learn more about his story. Evan, thank you for coming in today. Always happy to have you. So we've been running your opinion pieces on our website, at least since I started working here a little under a year ago. I assume quite a bit longer. But for people who aren't necessarily familiar with you, tell me a little bit about yourself.
Oh, it's for my writing part, I guess. I started writing when I became mayor in Chetwynd, because when Chetwynd really didn't have a lot of profile in the media there, so I started writing a weekly piece on that, and I had to learn to write from scratch. So right. I wrote for 9 consecutive years every week, missed one, and then from that when I moved to Fort St. John here, and then I retired. I just thought I would start writing, so I started writing for the Alaska Highway News. And as we know, it went under, and that kind of ended that. So then I came over to start writing for Energetic City. My background has been good for the writing part in that I've had, every 10 years, I've changed my careers my whole life, different communities, so I've got a lot of different perspectives on that, and then being into the politics part of things. So here I am today.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. So we're talking today about your journey with prostate cancer. Let's start with when you were diagnosed. Tell me a little bit about the day that happened and sort of what that looked like, how you felt that day.
Well, it was a bit of a process to actually find out, because it actually starts for most people with a PSA test, because you don't feel anything, you don't understand that there's anything going on. And the doctor simply asked me, it was actually part of a driver's medical, have I ever had a PSA test? And I didn't even know what that was.
Right.
And that's for most men in their 50s. So she said, go get one. So when I went and got one, it came in at about 4, and which is not really high, but it's not low, and it requires further. So from that, and over time as it went up, then you start realizing, well, there's something going on. And then as you finally get down to where you have to do something, you realize you have cancer.
Right. Tell me a bit, for people whose lives haven't been touched by cancer before, maybe they've never been through the process, walk me through a little bit what the next steps looked like for you. I know that this was a very gradual process. Your article series starts as far back as 2019. Tell me a bit about what that process has looked like in sort of the broad strokes.
Well, the cancer part is because you don't know you have it, and there was nothing to tell you that there's something different in your body. You're really not even aware of it. I mean, the surgeries are surgeries, and you have to recover from that, and that's like any surgery. And then when that didn't work, and I had to go through the external beam radiation, same thing. You don't really feel anything other than the discomfort of having a full bladder and an empty rectum at the same time, and on cue for that. So there's not a lot to do, because nothing really changed other than missing body parts.
Yeah. Tell me a bit, sort of, you talk about, again, you mentioned that PSA. What does that process actually entail for someone who maybe is getting towards 50 and is interested in learning more about what they're going to need to start looking into?
Well, it means getting a prescription from your doctor just to go to the lab in this case at the hospital here, for a quick blood test. And they take the blood and they check for antigens. And if the doctor doesn't recommend it, or you don't have a doctor, as many people do, I think it's still about $35 to do one on your own to do that. And that's kind of the starting point. And if it comes in at the 1 or 2 where it's not significant to me, and then it's probably every 5 years you might do another one.
Okay. Are there any, whenever you were going through the process of being diagnosed and then gradually being treated, did you ever hear anything about early warning signs that people should maybe look out for? I know you described that you didn't really feel any different. Was there any talk about possible ways that you might start to feel different as the process was going on?
No, well, yes, there is, but it's not early warning signs anymore. It's late warning signs. So by the time you know something is going on, the cancer has usually got out of your prostate and into your lymph nodes or other parts of your body, and that becomes or difficult to treat or untreatable on that. So that's why they want the PSA, because if it's still within your prostate, it's something like a 99% cure rate if they detect it early versus later then. And it's not, I think it's 1 in 9 men will get prostate cancer. So it's not rare. Some people of color have greater rates, 1 in 6 on men. So it depends. And then plus, if you have it in your family history, then you have a much greater probability.
For sure, absolutely. You talked a little bit about the cure rate. I think you said about 99% if it's caught early. What does that actual process, we don't need to get into the specific details of how that can sort of affect your ability to function afterward, but what does the process look like? What are the actual treatment options?
Well, the one which I had done was surgical removal.
Okay.
On that, and that's one. And then they can do one with hormones, and they reduce the size if you've got a enlarged prostate on down, and then they can go with radiation, targeted beam on that, and then inserting radioactive beads around it at the end on that. So those are the two main treatments on that. Side effects are similar but a little bit different. Risks are still about the same.
Okay. Now, once you've had that done and they confirm, they've taken care of everything, are you still getting screened for cancer again a few years later? Is this a lifelong thing that you have to keep an eye on afterwards, or is this just it's taken out and you're done?
Well, right now, because my PSA levels are down like 0.03, 0.04, they deem that I don't have it, but I still annually get a PSA test.
Okay.
So, and as most people, as you get older, you're always in the hospital getting one blood test or done or another. So they just do it as on an annual basis for that.
Yeah, for sure. Your journey started, correct me if I'm wrong, started in early 2019, or if you go further back, when you got that first PSA test was as far back as 2014, I believe. And your most recent update for our article series was written recently, but before that it was in 2022. Have you noticed any significant changes in anything that's happened in those 2 years since that last update? Have there been any further developments, anything like that?
Yes. So in 22, when I wrote, I thought maybe that was my last one because it got down to where they thought I was cancer free. But this past year, I started to get blood in my stool, and one of the potential side effects of having external beam radiation treatment is that they burn in your colon or in your rectum on that. So now we're dealing with that. So it's not the cancer part; it's one of the side effects as you go on and on. So, and I think when they talk to you about, radiation is a pretty brutal treatment.
Yeah.
It rolls off our tongue, but it's not archaic, but it's brutal, and they will tell you right outright. A lot of the side effects you may not know for 5 years or more what happens, because it may just kill a few good cells, and then it takes years for the body to start missing those good cells and manifest it into something else.
Yeah, for sure. You had a lot of help from a lot of different doctors, surgeons, nurses, not just here in Fort St. John, but you also spent a lot of time in hospitals in Vancouver. Do you have any message you'd want to share with the doctors and the nurses and the surgeons that helped you throughout that process?
Oh, they've all been number one in terms of looking to help you in that. I think the part I think most people get frustrated with is the time it takes, just from the shortage of specialists or the time it takes to travel. It's not until I read my whole thing back again you realize how much time I spent traveling somewhere else to get something. Whereas you talk to our southern friends and family, they don't understand that. They can walk down the street or a 2-minute drive and go see a specialist. Well, something as simple as getting my catheter removed. My doctor wanted to do it in North Vancouver, and I explained to him that cost me $700 to go get it. That anybody here could remove it. I could remove it myself if they would have said it. Once you figure out how to release the pressure and you pull it out, and they go, well, doesn't the government pay for that? You go, no, it doesn't. Not the travel. You pay for it all yourself, and then figure out whether you can collect it on your taxes, and unless you have some other type of insurance that covers that. So.
Yeah, for sure. Tell me a little bit about sort of what that actual time frame looked like, if from diagnosis to getting to talk with specialists. How long were those waiting periods generally? Was it the span of a month, a couple of months, a year?
Well, once it was deemed that my PSA levels were rising rapidly and it needs something to be done, it was only a matter of a couple of months to get into Prince George to get the external radiation done. Okay. It was the same when they were going up and it looked for removal. So once you get that, then it kicks in pretty fast because you jump to ahead of the line, I guess, or up to the front with everybody else.
Right, okay.
It's when you're waiting for something and there's diagnoses aren't complete or whatever. So, yes. So, as an example, right now I'm doing another blood analysis, but I don't get to see the doctor. I got April 2nd is my appointment. I mean, you go, well, that's 6 months. I mean, on that. But generally, if they find something that's important, then it speeds up.
Okay. For men, maybe older men, getting up in their 50s again, like we talked about earlier, who are going to be listening to this segment, do you have any information that you feel you really need to share with them? Is there a message you want to share with any people like that?
Well, yeah, every male should get a PSA test done when they get into their 50s. Talk to their doctor about it. If you have higher risks or whatever, understand your family histories or your ethnic histories where there is greater risks. Right. But if everybody just said when you hit your 50s, if your doctor doesn't recommend it, ask to get it. Otherwise, go do it yourself.
We talked about family history a little bit. You had a bit of a family history that you weren't initially aware of, right?
I was aware of it, but I forgot because my father had prostate cancer, but I was living in the Yukon, and he was in Bella Coola, and I knew he went for surgery, and then you kind of forget about it. Yeah, and then he passed a couple of years later from unrelated. And it wasn't until I picked a urologist, or my doctor and I picked a urologist out of the list. I went to talk to be recognized by my last name, and he'd done the surgery on my father. So
right. Yeah. So for people who are interested in learning more, were you given any resources to point people towards? Is there places where people can go to learn more about this that you're familiar with?
Well, once you're in the line and you're looking at doing something, the BC Cancer Center is very good. When you go see them, they run through all of the different options you have, the risks, because the people you talk to aren't the ones that actually do it. They're giving you the information. How do you make a decision whether you want to go surgery, or you want to go hormones, or you want to go radiation, or should you wait, shouldn't you? And they just give you the Coles notes of it, and that you go make your own decision.
Right, for sure, absolutely. Last thing here, we're getting sort of towards the point where we're going to wrap up this interview. Is there anything else you want to share about your journey that maybe we haven't talked about at all here yet? Anything else that you want to discuss regarding this? Any other messages you want to share with people out there?
Well, I think it's the message about Movember and supporting the research. I think even as I read now, different things like there's a blue light technology, so when they're doing your surgical removal, that they can shine it on, and if they've missed any cancer cells, they show up as a different color. Okay. Well, they didn't in 2019, they didn't have that. And so if they'd had that, maybe those 2 or 3 cells or whatever it was that they missed, they could have seen them. Who knows? Sure. So that, and it's things like that the research, which is always short in that. So we see there's such an organized, campaign around women's breast cancer and what that means on that, but it's less so. It's harder to get it out for men, and especially around prostate or testicular cancer on that, to make people aware of it. So,
are there any particular organizations you like to encourage people to donate to, or?
Well, I think the cancer centers or through Movember, which then puts they refund it back to where the money should go.
Right, for sure. Okay, perfect. Thank you so much for your time today, Evan. Really appreciate you coming in. That was Evan Saugstad. The next part of his article series, My Prostate, My Journey, is being posted at noon today on Energeticcity.ca. We'll be right back with the outro of This Week in the Piece.
Why wait for Black Friday with a savings start right now at Carter's Jewelers? It's our bigger than Black Friday sale, and everything in store is up to 75% off. Don't wait, these deals won't last long. Start your holiday shopping today and find the perfect piece at a fraction of the price. Diamonds, watches, bracelets, and more, all at jaw-dropping prices. Now is the time to sparkle and save up to 75% off store-wide. The bigger than Black Friday sale is on now. Don't wait or you'll be late. Carter's Jewelers, 9908 101st Avenue, Fort St. John.
Have your eyeglasses or sunglasses seen better days? Then it's time to visit Merwin Optical. Their expert advice can help you choose the right frames and lenses to help you look and see your best. Second sets are always half price, and they have a huge variety of brands to choose from. Same-day sight testing is available for adults 19 to 64, and they can even fill your prescription from other optometry clinics. They direct bill to all major insurance companies and also provide 1-hour service on most prescriptions. Visit Merwin Optical on 101st Avenue, Facebook, and Instagram.
Attention all Peace Region energy workers. Great Canadian Oil Change salutes your hard work and dedication to powering our communities. They know you depend on your vehicles to keep you going, so when it's time for service, trust Great Canadian Oil Change. They proudly accept all fleet cards, making it convenient for you to maintain your fleet on the go. Quick, no appointment service done in about 15 minutes. Now open across the highway from Safeway and Starbucks. Convenient, trusted, expert care. Now that's a Great Canadian Oil Change.
Hey, you.
Me?
Yeah, you. What are you doing? You don't belong here.
I know. I think I'm lost.
Well, there's no way out, sister. You're stuck in here with trash like us now.
Don't throw your recyclables where they don't belong. Bring them to FSJ Return It. Cans, plastic bottles, milk jugs, juice cartons, none of them belong in the trash. Recycle them today at FSJ Return It. Open 6 days a week on 93rd Avenue in Fort St. John.
The Fort St. John Métis Society Bingo is back again this Tuesday at 7 p.m. We'll be playing 4 games again this week: a line in any direction, the Big X, a big picture frame, and a blackout jackpot worth $1,000. Grab your purple cards for just $5 at the Fort St. John Métis Society office located behind the Canadian Grind or at Scoop Clothing, 9935 100th Avenue. Don't miss out. Tune in every Tuesday at 7 p.m. on moosefm.ca/bingo for your chance to win big with the Fort St. John Métis Society Weekly Bingo. BC Gaming License 153829. 19 plus only. Know your limit. Play within it.
Moose Country weather.
Mainly cloudy skies today with a chance of light snow. High of a -2, but it's going to feel like a -19 with that wind chill. Later tonight, -1, chance of flurries overnight, and it's going to feel like -11 with the wind. Tomorrow, high of 4 degrees. Looks like the sun is going to pop out with a chance of flurries, and on Sunday, high of -1, periods of snow throughout the day.
You can watch this show live on Facebook, catch the replays at Energeticcity.ca, or be part of the show by texting your thoughts to the Fort City Chrysler line at 250-787-2222.
Welcome back to This Week in the Piece. My name is Steve Berard. Big thank you again to Evan Saugstad for coming on the show today. Again, the next part of his article series, My Prostate, My Journey, will be posted at noon today on Energeticcity.ca. I also want to give a big thank you to my producer for today, Chris Walker, for his help with everything, and thank you for tuning in. You can listen to this show again by checking out the podcast at Energeticcity.ca/podcasts. We'll store this and future episodes of the show there as we make them. Also, check out our other locally produced podcasts, Before the Peace and Secrets of the North as well. That's our show. I'm Steve Berard for Dub Craig, who couldn't be here today. Be well.
Join us again next Friday morning at 10 for another edition of This Week in the Piece, your weekly talk show dedicated to the people, events, and news of BC's Peace Region. Or you can listen to this podcast